lot of card makers, masculine cards can be more of a challenge to make. As stampers and crafters, we're drawn to the pretty stamps, whether they're florals, critters or intricate designs. But our styles don't always suit the recipient the card is intended for, and this can often be quite common with male cards. Don't get me wrong, a man could like any card we make, but quite a few won't appreciate a floral card with all that time that we've put into it. So instead, I'm showing you a duo of masculine cards to get your inspiration going for when you next need to make a card for a male recipient. I'm Verity and welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on my next video. For this card, I'm using fog cardstock by Lawnform and the grid stencil from Altenew. To add subtle texture to the background of the card, I'm going to dry emboss the stencil design. You need to use a rubber embossing mat in your die cutting machine with your sandwich set up according to your machine to emboss. So for my Sizzix machine, I use the platform with adapter B, then a clear cutting plate on top, the embossing mat on top of that, followed by my cardstock and the stencil laying over the top of this. I also use the Sizzix impression pad over the very top instead of using a clear cutting plate, but it's up to you and you may need some shims of cardstock as well to get the right pressure. Alternatively, you could use fun foam if you don't have the embossing mat. So once this is run through your machine, you get the stencil design dry embossed into your card, and it gives a lovely tone-on-tone texture. To create the sentiment, I'm using the fine alphabet dies from Altenew to die cut the word birthday out of tranquil teal cardstock from Gina K Designs. However, to step the die cuts up a notch, I'm heat embossing the pinstripe background stamp from Altenew onto the cardstock. I'm using metallic platinum embossing powder from Wow Embossing Powders, as this has a lovely grungier feel to it as opposed to a very bright gold or silver embossing powder. I used my craft mat to line the dies up to tape them all up together so they're in a nice line. Originally, I planned to die cut the word out from the emboss panel and then use the negative emboss panel to create a second card with the birthday die cut window. However, the tape I was using was quite tacky and I forgot to reduce the tackiness before adhering it onto the card and my dies, and therefore when it was run through my machine to die cut it adhered quite well. When I tried to remove the dies and the tape, it started to tear some of the card when I removed it. So I can use the remainder of the embossed card by cutting off the bottom, but I wouldn't be able to use that birthday bit. For added interest, the letters were added to black foam die cut letters to create dimension and also add a pop of colour from the side. And I wanted to tie in that black by using the Altenew watercolour pan set and adding some jet black paint splatter over the background. And this was then set to dry. The happy sentiment comes from the Birthday Builder Sentiment stamp set from Altenew, and I wasn't sure which happy I wanted, so instead of deciding therein, I stamped out multiple of them onto some black cardstock using my Misty, and I did this twice because I wanted to cover one with white embossing powder and one with platinum, because again I wasn't quite sure which would look best. So now I've got plenty of them that in the future when I make projects I've got them there on hand to use, saving me time on my next project. So I decided to go with a platinum embossed sentiment just to tie in with the platinum embossing on the die cuts, and the whole panel was foam mounted onto a matching card base and a few black Nouveau drops were added. So this is quite a clean and simple card, but the texture of the stenciling and the embossing adds a little bit more of a geometric design to the card. The second card uses very simple stamping to create a geometric abstract background to sit the birthday sentiment on. Using the square frames from the Altenew Geo Frames stamp set, I stamped off the side of a piece of Nina Solar White Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock in a selection of the Altenew Warm Grey inks. Now I have a piece of fun foam underneath just so I could get a really good impression. I used the Morning Frost, Evening Grey and Moon Rock to stamp the squares and rotating the square to get a different shape. And then for an added pop of colour, I stamped the hexagon from the stamp set in Persian Blue from the Glacier Caves Altenew ink collection. But I didn't quite like how this blue overlapped the greys and that you could see the grey lines showing through the hexagon. So I stamped it again onto some card and used the coordinating dies to just die cut it out. The whole card panel was adhered to a black card base and then the hexagon was foam mounted onto the front added dimension. As I'd already heat embossed several sentences already, I could just easily quickly choose a couple from the selection using different fonts for more added interest and put these onto the hexagon with some foam pads for dimension. I finished it off again, this card, with some black Nouveau drops. So the black and white colours of the card tie in quite well with the geometric design, and the pop of blue adds a little bit of pop art-ish nod to the card. These cards were made following taking the For Guys class on Altenew Academy. This was towards my Altenew Educator Certificate Programme. It was a great class where I enjoyed seeing how you can take simple stamps and create fun cards with different styles for men. This card was produced as part of my design team work for Bumbleberry Papercrafts. This is an online UK-EU stockist of American stamps and dies, so make sure you go and check Katrina's site out. If you're not a subscriber already to my channel and you're new here, why not click that button below along with the bell icon to be notified when my next video is up. You may also like this other video too, and I hope you enjoyed today's technique. Until next time, happy crafting!